It's good to be back, right? We took kind of a bit of a break, right?
Yeah,
Um,
and it didn't feel good. I don't like taking a break from the containers from the couch. It's so comfy here.
I know, right? I missed the couch. It's like I fell asleep on it and then, woke up and everyone was gone and the party was over and
It's
who
only
knows?
just begun. The party's
That's
only
right.
just begun. Um,
Exactly.
but yeah, so yeah, we had a couple days off, but now we're back, and we actually have I would say some really cool topics that we're going to talk about today and then tomorrow on the show. Just a little sneak peek. Tomorrow we are going to be talking infrastructure, deploying your containers all as code, but with Pulumi, which is going to be really fun. I'm looking forward to that. But today we have Petra on. Petra, I'll
Hi.
let you introduce in just a moment. But we're going to talk about App2Container. So, did I say it right? App2Container, or is it
Yeah.
containers? It
Yeah.
just container, the one. Yeah, makes sense.
One container. Yeah.
One container, one couch. Actually, so Petra, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us, all the good stuff about you, and then tell us about App2Container and what we're going to do today.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Petra, so I work as technical account manager in AWS a bit more than 1 year. And as well, I work as part of our containers community inside AWS, basically helping to improve our services, produce documentation. Yeah, that's kind of it. And in terms of App2Container, as technical account manager, I work a lot with enterprises, and enterprises have a lot of legacy stuff. So this is real world situation which I'm facing when they have some issues, concerns, how to modernize their legacy applications, right? And as we recently released this tool, I found it very useful. Did a lot of internal kind of work on that, and worked with one of my customers, and I know we have other customers who successfully use this in production. I don't think there yet some official names we can say for that, but there is already use cases.
Well, one of the things, as I was poking at it, one of the things that I noticed that I think is really awesome is it can help you discover applications that you have running on your workstation, not workstation, but on your server, in your environment, and then help you containerize those. And I was thinking back to like when I used to have to manage servers and used to have to manage applications and that sort of thing, and I was always running into the situation where there was an app running on a server and no one could tell me how it got there. Like the automation for putting it there didn't exist. Someone came along, they installed it. You had no idea, how it gets installed, where you download it from, or any of that kind of stuff. And imagine that today, faced with the idea of I want to move it for one thing, but even more, I want to containerize it. And you have to figure out how to do that without knowing anything, of its history or how it got there. Like App2Container can really help with that. And that's a real situation that people find themselves in. So
Yeah,
I think that's really cool.
yeah, exactly. So I think I would like to probably run quickly through a few slides. So just to give people like understanding, okay, what we are talking about, and then jump to practical part, right?
Nice. Yeah. So let's talk App2Container.
Yeah. So basically, what benefits we have, right, when we containerize our legacy applications? First one is agility. So yeah, if we can develop, deploy faster all this microservices concept. If organization already has some CI/CD pipeline, right? So it can then integrate into existing tooling. So basically, this next point. So enterprise DevOps, so they can use already proven ecosystem of some cloud native tooling for this. Then we are getting portable deployment, so which now can be easily moved. Instead of, as you mentioned, we stuck with some server which nobody knows about. Right, and we also can reduce operational overhead because somebody need to look over that legacy server still, if application is still valid and important, right? And we can optimize compute infrastructure.
Yeah, and
okay. Go ahead, Adam.
I'm going to talk. Thank you.
Yeah,
okay.
You do it.
I'm going to do me. Thank you, Brent, for allowing me to be myself. But it really, I just wanted to highlight when you take these enterprise apps, first of all, we talked the scenario where you just happen to discover this app. It's been running on a Windows server for, the past 5 years. The person who built it and managed it left 4 years, and almost 5 years ago after they built it, and it just runs. But what happens if you need to scale? What happens if you need to, install it on a new server? You're in a position where you have to really figure out the application and how to move it and all the packages, the dependencies. This way, by just taking it and putting it into a container, you're already making it easier for yourself when it comes to portability. Like, there's so much value there. Now, of course, there's more value as you break up the application and you really, break it up into microservices. But I wanted to just highlight that from the start, you already have built-in agility by moving that into a container. And frankly, by using a service that's going to make it a lot easier by doing it for you, basically, right?
And I was even going to point out that, the title here is benefits containerization of legacy applications, but really all of these points apply to containerization of any application. They all help give you agility and help give you, whether it's enterprise or not, but help, in that DevOps conversion. They help you with portability and being able to run where you want to run. And then, operational efficiency, being able to pack more things closer together is how you get there. So, this is just containerization, generally speaking, but being able to then easily apply it to an enterprise app, especially an old legacy enterprise app, that's where the real magic happens.
Yeah, exactly. And basically, if we move to challenges, as you mentioned, right? So I work a lot with customer, and I face this in day-to-day work. So lack of expertise, it can be in containers technologies, right? Maybe lack of knowledge on this legacy application, as you mentioned. Somebody left. Maybe there is even no source code, right? Currently, it's been deployed using some manual scripts. Again, nobody knows what that script is doing. It's just running. Okay, it's fine. Sometimes maybe everybody knows all this, but then they have these day-to-day operations, priorities for new projects, and containerization, let's say specifically of legacy stuff, is basically second, or even not second, maybe last priority, to dedicate a lot of resources there. But as we come into App2Container tool, it gives a lot of benefits which can substitute this lack of expertise or lack of this, and we will not have to dedicate a lot of resources to move with that.
Yeah. And enterprises, look, they're large. Oftentimes, sure, enterprises are going to have these advanced teams that are already doing containers and serverless and all these cool things. But in every enterprise, we all know there's teams that they're working on projects that aren't as maybe advanced, but if they need to move, they want to start modernizing. This is a great way to get your feet wet and really start to understand and learn the containerization journey. So then as you grow and start to use containers more, this gives you that kind of head start.
Yeah, people always ask, where do I start? How do I whether they're wanting to know how do you break a monolith into microservices, how do you containerize, like there's always the question of just where do I start? And the truth is there's not a 100% always correct answer. So just start somewhere. And what you'll do if you start by breaking your monolith into microservices and you haven't containerized yet, what you're going to run into then is you're just going to run multiple services on a bunch of different instances, and you're going to, connect them together, and then you'll figure out how to containerize them. Or if you start with containerizing your big application, then what you're going to do is you're going to learn, the workflow, the pipeline, the everything that has to be done from a containerization perspective. You're going to learn all those tools first. Then as you start to break things down into microservices, you'll be able to take advantage of that knowledge and move faster, multiplying that over each of those microservices that you're building. So both have benefits. Just learn and go. That's really what you want to do. Here is a tool, App2Container, that can help you move in that journey. So for one of those options, containerization, we can use this tool to help you get started.
Yeah, and I just, one thing that came to my head when you were talking, Brett, is this is an example of using an opinionated tool. It is going to, with an opinion, build things in a way that's described by the tool. If you don't have time to learn all of the inner workings of containerization, use an opinionated tool framework to get you started, because it's going to take a lot of the heavy lifting away from you and do it on its own with, best practices, or I don't like good practices built in, right?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not the best point, but it's a good point.
It's a good point, right? Because I don't have the best point.
I'm just kidding.
No, I know. It's good.
I totally get you about the best practices comment, though. We got to switch to just good practices.
Yeah. Cool. Go on, Petra.
Yeah, this one is, we kind of actually, I think, just talked through that. So there is all these steps to understand dependencies, libraries, how to build Docker file, how to push container, how to integrate into CI/CD, all infrastructure things. And you can use a opinionated tool, and tool itself is flexible, so it produces artifacts, and it gives you a lot of tips that you can basically manage your artifacts, and you can change them how you want, but at least you will see the starting point. And
nice.
It's not mandatory that you just use what it produced. You can modify it, and there is a lot of tips in process I will show in demo, like how it works.
Awesome. So this is kind of just a list of things that you have to go through no matter the situation, whether it's an enterprise legacy app or it's your set of microservices. But are you telling me that App2Container does some of these, does most of these, does all of these? Like, does it help us with every single thing on here?
Yes, it can.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Let's check it out. I'm excited.
So basically App2Container, we have a few stages here, right? So we have discover and analyze stage, where we basically analyze, okay, what is on this server, and get necessary dependencies. Then we extract this and create Docker image. Next step, we create deployment artifacts. It can be ECS tasks or Kubernetes definitions. And we also can create, if we want, this is optional, but we can create CI/CD pipeline. It's AWS native pipeline, in this case, code pipeline. And last step, we actually deploy to AWS Cloud. We can deploy manually or use, for example, a pipeline which was created for us.
Nice.
So I have to ask, Petra, because I'm excited. Are we gonna get into the demo? Because I'm ready.
Yeah, I can probably. I will just skip one. I want to mention here, it's important point for users to know as well about flexibility of tools. So this is all steps. I will not just read all of them, right? But I want to point out number 7. So there is very useful feature which is called split mode. It is basically to accommodate unavailability, let's say, of Docker tools on older Windows servers when we talk about legacy apps. So basically, you can run like first 3 steps on server where app is actually running. Then you can extract artifacts, let's say, to S3, and then on new server, we call it like worker server, you can then build actually image, containerize, and do this. So this is kind of split mode, which
That's
was
nice.
taking into account this edge case.
That's nice because App2Container has a dependency on Docker, right? It's going to build us a container. But Docker hasn't been available on Windows for very long. I mean, there's when we're talking about legacy apps in the grand scheme of legacy apps, there's definitely versions of Windows Server out there that can't run Docker. So it's cool that we didn't just leave them out in the cold.
Yeah, that's why I just wanted to point attention to that step specifically. Okay, so yeah, let's jump to our demo part. So what we have, so this is basically app which we will containerize. So it is ASP.NET app running an IIS server. It's running on, in my demo, on EC2 instance, but obviously it can be on-prem, some VM, whatever we have. So here this is public DNS name of our EC2 instance. So we have this forum here, right? We can log in, like everything is working here. This is, let's jump to this part. So now we are on this server where this app, which I just showed, is running. So first step will be basically you download, you need on this server internet access to download, or again, enterprise, you maybe can download on another server, and if this server has access to some enterprise network, you can put installer there. So again, various options for this. So to install, we need to run PowerShell script. Here is just, do we want to run it once, security? Okay, just terms and conditions that it's licensed by AWS.
And I don't know if it's possible to maybe zoom in a little bit on the terminal. If it's not, I don't know with PowerShell if that's.
Let me probably, I can try to just to increase, because this zoom is, this PowerShell is not that. Let's try bigger font.
Hey, there we go. Perfect.
Sweet.
Okay, so it says installation completed successfully, what version we are running, and already give you tip, like to start, run App2Container init, right? So,
Brent, what does this kind of remind you of? Like, are you starting to see a pattern like I'm seeing?
It's a little CoPilot-y. CoPilot in it, App2Container in it, to get you started and walk you through. Yeah, I like it. Anyways, it kind of asks you questions along the way.
Yeah, I'm liking this.
Yeah, so it's asking for workspace directory path for artifacts. Again, you can choose yourself. I stick with default here. AWS Profile. Just kind of step back here. So for this to work, if you want to deploy to EKS or ECS or offload artifacts to S3, you need access to AWS. So you can create an IAM user or IAM role, and then you specify this profile here. Okay, which profile this tool will use. So again, I just stick. I just created it as default.
And Petra, do you know, do we offer like a recommended IAM role to use for depending on where you deploy, or is it probably going to be something that has quite a bit of permissions? Are there any recommendations around that?
No, we kind of provide recommendations in our like on our documentation for tools. So there is, but again, it's a if you don't need ECS, just exclude that. Let's say to keep least privilege principle to So.
Cool.
So here it's asking for S3 bucket for optional again for artifacts. I created bucket in advance, so I will use it here. Here is again optional, so some people may be concerned. Report usage metrics to AWS, same as all your gadgets like iPhone, whatever. Ask you, do you want to report? Okay, up to you. So it's not, we are not pushing you, but this help our team to gather more metrics, how it's performing, failures, etc.
Makes sense.
Again, we took into account because there is some focus, right, on enterprises. So for security reasons, you may need to enable that images need to be signed with DCT, with Docker Container Trust, if needed. But again, for purposes of this demo, we will not sign. Okay, so everything created here. So now we can move to next step, right?
Yeah.
And so we're initialized, and does this create like a manifest file that we can work with, or I guess what artifacts were just created or from what you just did?
From this point, it's not artifacts. It's basically created here like config file. At this point, it's nothing to do with, let's say, deployment artifacts. We just configured tool itself.
Yeah, in a way, this is. I know you were trying to draw a comparison to CoPilot, and CoPilot, by this point, we would have sort of initialized our application and had a manifest for that one app. And I feel like with App2Container so far, it doesn't know about our app yet. So we're still just configuring the tool itself to talk to AWS, but we haven't gotten as specific as the app yet. Yeah,
exactly. So now next step, we want to discover, what we have on this server, which App2Container can work with. And so, by the way, so right now we have support for .NET, ASP.NET, and Java. And team is working, let's say, to enable more languages, but as of now, these two.
Those are two big ones.
Yeah, two big ones. So we run inventory command, and we see, it discovered two IIS apps. So one is default website, which is usually like if you don't disable it, kind of running on IIS. And we have our application. So it has site name, it discovered which port it's running on, application type. And this one, which we call like application ID. So each discovered app, if there will be, let's say, 10 apps, so each app will be assigned the unique ID, which we can use further in our process. Because on the same server, maybe we want to containerize two apps. We will have two different unique IDs, and we will go using that.
This is really cool. Does it talk to IIS to be able to discover this, or does it just look at running processes? Like, do you know, how does it find this information out?
It's honestly don't know, like I know it's checking IIS app pools. So I was checking like code internally of scripts. So I think it's checking application pools.
Okay.
No, obviously, maybe not obviously, I forgot. So you need, on Windows, you need administrator access, If you're doing, let's say, Java on Unix server, Linux, you need sudo access for that. So yeah, it will be discovering like running processes, checking app pools for IIS, for example, to see what is reported there.
Nice.
Okay, so next step. So we will take our app, our specific app ID, and basically analyze it, right? So next step. Sorry. So I don't stop with this. Okay, so it started. So now you see it says created artifacts folder. So now back to your point. So this is where artifacts for these specific apps are starting to be produced at this step.
Nice.
So when I tried this, I was doing a Java app on Linux, but I noticed that it started creating a tarball in the artifacts folder. Is that what it's doing on Windows?
It's already done.
It's already done. Nice.
No, it's actually, so it's here, App2Container. Let me make this bigger as well. So I don't know
if you can make the font bigger in this.
Let's at least I made large icons, and then we will see about font in file itself, right? Okay. So at this point, so it has log as well. So in case something goes wrong, you can check log file. But in artifacts folder itself, first what is produced is basically this analysis JSON file, analysis report. And actually, let's look into it. I will make bigger. Okay, hopefully, yeah, it seems good. Okay, so this is results of analysis, and it's important to understand, but you have also comments here, right? Tips which tool give you. So, okay, this section, it says editable. So, and it can be edited according to environment, to requirements. So first is container-based image. So this is what tool identified, as you mentioned, as per good practices. Okay, what image we will recommend here. But if you want, you can replace it, right? In case, but now this is coming back to situation. Okay, if I don't have enough knowledge, that maybe not, right? If I'm expert in this, maybe I don't need tool itself. So depend, but you can replace it.
Yeah.
Right. Enable server configuration updates. So it's like to preserve server configuration existing, or not to preserve, like move, just scratch server. Repository name. So this is repository name which will be created in ECR. Again, if you want, change it to name you like, and say it to image tag. So maybe your organization has some specific requirements or practices using image tags, so you can change it here. Now these three sections included web apps, additional exposed ports, and app included files. So in this case, tool did not identify these additional things, but in case, let's say you made container, then you check something not working, and you understand yourself, okay, maybe I have another port opened for something, for remote management, or it was not discovered. So you can add it here. And additional web app, like maybe something is you need to include as well. Now this section, it says non-editable. So this is just analyzes results. So it identified basically host info. So what server we have, right? What architecture? It assigned application ID. It found this app pool name, IIS version, .NET version, local port, protocol, site where it found its physical path, where it is located on machine. And this is interesting. So this is features, like Windows features, which were identified as well on machine.
So would those end up being dependencies? Like we need to be able to cover that inside the container?
Yeah, and when we will build our Docker image, next step, I will show you how it played out.
Nice. Okay, cool.
As well. So yes, this is because container usually smaller, so it identified, at least per good practices and what tool thinks, okay, we need only these things. We don't need all Windows Server features for this to run. And in this case, site uses Windows OS. So in case site uses, in my case, it don't, right? But if it's connected to Active Directory, all these things, then App2Container will produce additional kind of helper artifacts to enable this on container, because it's a bit complicated process for Windows containers, and it will produce some artifacts and tips to help you with that as well.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Okay, yeah. So we have, and editable files. It's basically, it took web configuration, only this file at this point, and maybe you want to change something again before containerizing it, because web configuration is considered a editable part, right? So here now we are getting to this containerization part, and we have tips again from tool. So it says here, right, view application analysis file. That's what we did and discussed. Edit if needed, and start containerization process using this command. So it give you command. So I even can copy this, right, instead of typing this, and we go. So it will few minutes run. We can probably talk through some things. Maybe viewers have
so
some.
Right. Yeah, so right now I noticed the Docker prerequisite check. It's checking to see that you have Docker on your Windows machine.
Yeah.
So it's probably now running like Docker pull, Docker build. It's got to pull down that
base image.
Microsoft base image, yeah, and then from that it has to then work on building and putting all of the code into the container. So it had identified where the code is on the drive already. So it can start to copy that stuff in. All of the features that it requires from the server, so it can make sure that those are in the container and available. And then it'll have to figure out, I suppose, how to start the app, which, since it's an IIS app, there's probably just a standard way to do that. Is it going to give us a Docker file at the end of all of this that we could look at?
Yeah, of course, it's already, you see, I actually, while it's running, maybe I already can jump. So it says Docker file generated.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's generating a bit more artifacts, right? But if we go here, so now we have, it's already finished. So now we have like zip file with like site itself, right? And now we have new folder artifacts appeared, right? We go here and we have here Docker file.
Yeah.
Like, and some helpers I will explain, like web deploys is to restore website configuration if needed, and all these things. So let's jump to Docker file.
And just a quick break. There was a question from Tex and Raj that maybe you could answer. Is this mainly for IIS applications? Can you maybe expand on the scope of the different applications that you could use this with?
Sure. So for ASP.NET, yes, as of now, it's running with IIS applications. Only for Java, it's working with Tomcat,
Pareto
WebSphere.
is what I was using, and that didn't
WebSphere.
work.
So Apache web server. So with for Java a bit more. For .NET, it's running.
It's been, I don't even know. It's been so many years, but can you run .NET applications not on IIS?
I mean, you can run it on Linux now.
Well, that's sorry, not .NET Core, but like .NET applications. I don't know. I feel like that's always going to be on IIS. I might be wrong. Twitch or YouTube, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure someone will. But yeah, I think that that's one big pool, and then Java and all of the Java applet servers that you can pick from. That's the other big pool in the legacy enterprise world. So I think this is really a good start. Whether or not you would, then what would be left? There's your Node.js app and your Ruby app, your Rails app potentially, I suppose. But trying to identify and containerize those seems easier. Now, App2Container, maybe that's still something that it might look to in the future. But for now, like, it seems like those objectives are achievable without this tool. But what this is doing is certainly solving a pretty big problem.
Yeah. So here is our Docker file, right? So as you mentioned, Brent, we have from and that base image. All right, now Windows magic. So kind of going to PowerShell in silent continue mode. Again, to be smart and make container, we are removing default website. We can so that's what we good practice. But yep. we can take it out from here if you want. But okay. So now again, as you mentioned, these steps to set up. So we create this directory. We start a new IIS pool here. Then new website. Provide this physical path. On what port we expose it. Then copy from our artifacts to Docker image this site content itself, and we need to set owner to IIS, so it can have permissions on this folder.
I have to say, I feel like I did nail the Docker file.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty cool. There was another question that came in from Bokjo. What happens if there is a database like MS SQL as a dependency? Will it containerize the database too?
Very, very good question. In this example, as I mentioned, so I am running this IIS app on EC2, and database is running on RDS, like MS SQL. So it's separated, right? In this case, when we will finish demo, it will seamlessly pick up those settings and connect to the same DB. Everything fine. But to answer exactly this question, it was not recommended in production. So I know there is option to run like server SQL locally on Windows, like in kind of developer mode. So that tool potentially can do that, but it's not supported yet in Windows container images.
Yeah. So, and I would even say, just more broadly speaking, that's one of the things that you want to benefit from when you containerize is to separate out those duties so that your app is in your container and your database is just handled elsewhere, separate from your container. And if that's another, another MS SQL server, so be it. We like to use RDS, so that's certainly a good option. If you're in dev mode or something like that, you just have a process running on the same machine as your container, then that would make sense too. But starting to think of those as separate, separate domains is certainly a good thing.
Yeah, and all in that first step, when it before we produce Docker, when it analyzed, so that web configuration file, let's say for AS, was highlighted as editable file, and there is like this connection string for database, so you can change it. And if there is any other dependencies on databases, it specifically looks, this tool specifically looks various configs, both in Java and in IIS, if there is dependency on some database or middleware.
Makes sense. All right, cool.
Yeah, so
how do we see it running?
Sure. So
Brent and I are not patient, as you can see.
yeah, we expose port here, right?
Yep.
We'll just 1 second finish this. And this is what I told about GMSA. So here it was not detected, but in case it is, it says, again, a lot of tips, please uncomment commands, and it will install additional like Windows features and set this up for you. And you asked about dependencies, Brent. So here it's nice. It says following Windows features are installed on host, but not in container. So in that part, we had only subset of features which we are. Here it's vice versa. It say, okay, all this stuff is on server. We don't want to move it, but in case you think you need, uncomment it.
Yep. I can imagine so many people will just uncomment all of those. And they'll end up with a copy of their server running inside their container.
Yeah, so now it says next step. So view container image as well, right? With Docker images when you're ready to deploy.
Yeah. Can we do that? I'm curious how big this image ended up being. Can we do Docker images?
Yeah, of course. Okay.
My guess is gigantic.
Oh, only 7.39 gigs.
That's nothing. That's like my download speed. No big deal.
Well, and when you look at the base image right below it, 7.17 is where we started. So the
that
app
was my
itself,
original tease, by the way. It's just at the image size for. I'm sorry. I'm trolling.
That's gosh. Wow. I mean, that's the Windows life, I guess.
They're right. Windows images are just larger, right? This is known.
So we need quickly adjust here and probably spend 1 minute here. So at this stage, two main artifacts is Docker image and deployment JSON. So this part. So this is again application, image name, exposed ports. This is what will be used for creating artifacts for EKS or ECS. And here is two sections, as you see, ECS parameters and EKS parameters. By default, ECS is set to true, EKS to false. So by default, it will create task definitions for ECS.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so in my case, I'm more EKS guy. So, and I have EKS cluster in place for us to see how it will work. So I am changing this to basically true for EKS. Yeah, and based on tips, so check Docker images, check deployment JSON, and now generate deployment artifacts. So we are doing this one.
This is an interesting, while we're waiting on this, it's an interesting question from Boat Joe. What happens with the SSL certs? Are they ported too?
This is good question.
Yeah, I don't know what I would expect. I can imagine going to either direction with that.
They will be. So I think depends if they reside in. Depends on IAS how they reside there, because when I was doing containers, not up to container, but another topic, and I need to terminate SSL, let's say, on my pod, I was putting this into secret file and then connect to secret. So here is no secret creation, let's say, in this part.
Mm-hmm.
But it's depend on original architecture. If SSL cert was right on site, but maybe SSL was sitting on load balancer or somewhere above this up.
Yep. Yeah,
So
I mean, normally when you deploy
it
to
depends.
EKS or ECS, you're going to have your SSL cert at the load balancer level. So yeah, I can imagine it skipping the cert for inside the container. But then again, I can also imagine like just having some kind of certificate that you can then not pass through, but like re-encrypt and talk to. Even if it's a self-managed cert or something. Hey, Bokjo, why don't you tweet that question to Adam or me, and we'll research that and we'll try and get you an answer. So that's a good question, and I don't know. We'll find out though.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, so we are at the finish line right here. So
Sweet.
Now two additional like features, amazing things, right? So as you see here about next steps, it give you also commands. So it says create application stack using CLI or console, and it gives you CLI command for CloudFormation deploy, and it's pointing to template file. So here we have new folders. One of these EKS deployment, right? Because we selected EKS in this case, and it created for us EKS template to create. So it's a deploy EKS cluster in new VPC if we want. So again, I will show now we have this deployment artifacts, deployment and service, which we will deploy, like in our example, to existing cluster. But as we talked about this help and starting points, so here we have template, and again, we are more than welcome to adjust it if needed. So this is
a CloudFormation template that would build us an EKS cluster. That's nice.
This part is CloudFormation template for cluster, and what is also nice, we have another file here which is called pipeline.json. So this file is kind of template to create AWS code pipeline for us. So it will be like fully CI/CD managed thing, and it will take our image. It will create code commit repository, take Docker file, necessary EKS artifacts, put it into code commit, create code build for building image, and create deployment part for deploying actually to EKS.
Wow.
This takes time to deploy, so I won't be able, let's say, to start this from scratch, but I have built this in advance.
Oh yeah.
And I can this part I can show to viewers. So here we have code pipeline. So this is created from that file. So I just apply as CloudFormation, and it created pipeline. And here you can see source. So here we have code commit. Here we have this code build stage. And last step is release, like the stage is beta or prod. I just choose beta, but and this part it will deploy straight to EKS. And so at this point, everything is containerized and it is in your repo. So now you can just make modifications in your repo, commit, and it will automatically build and push new container image.
That's really cool. That's very CoPilot-y.
So just to recap, you started with an app, an IIS, an app running in IIS. App2Container found it. You pointed to that particular app. From there, you created, you then containerized it with the utility, and it created a Docker file, built a Docker image, pushed that image to an ECR repository. Then you said, then it gave you the option to deploy to ECS, deploy to EKS. And you just said true to one of them, and it then outputted a CloudFormation template for you to build the EKS cluster, so you could build and deploy a cluster. So again, someone coming in, I have no idea how to do that. It gives me that template. I deploy my cluster. I can also then, with the tool, deploy a pipeline, and all I have to do is just push my code to Git, and I literally have CI/CD, cluster, modernization, and I didn't do a whole lot except answer some questions on the command line. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
While we still talk, so I will just manually, because as of now it's not in cluster, right? That pipeline.
Okay.
But this manual part. So we have these two EKS deployment YAML and EKS service YAML. So in this case, just to show it's running. So it's I applied deployment.
I forgot to mention it all. Yeah, so it generated the manifest as well. This is really cool.
Yeah, so those manifests were actually committed to this initial code commit repository, the same manifest, right, as starting point. So now we can get service, and I would like to grab load
looks so familiar.
Load balancer IP.
You know Kubernetes, Brent?
I mean, this part is finally starting to make sense.
Yes, familiarity. Yeah. I like that.
Oh, what is this?
Oh.
It's take 1-2 minutes, like to
the bringing up the load balancer. We run into that all the time, where we have to wait on the ELB. Yeah,
so we just can summarize discussion probably in 1 minute. Probably check 1-2 minutes. It should be up.
Yeah, that's awesome though. And I mean, okay, so I just feel like if someone, like if this was on your backlog, containerize this legacy application, and you walked in and did all of this, in a week even. I mean, not that you need a week to do it because the tool does all the work for you, but you would look like a magician, like to the rest of the team. It would be like, holy crap, how did you do all of that?
That's a promotion right there.
I feel like it is. Yeah.
App2 promotion. That's what I'm going to rename it to.
That's pretty incredible. Because, I mean, okay, it's one thing, we love CoPilot. We love, the workflow that it brings and all that. But as great as it is, like the domain is Linux, and being able to do what it does in Linux isn't a huge stretch. You have to learn some things, and you have to know what to do, and CoPilot absolutely makes all of it easier. But the difficulty level in Windows, I feel like, is just 10x. Like it's just so much harder. There's so many more weird isms that you have to be aware of and work through, and this kind of takes care of that for you. So it's pretty great.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Oh,
hey,
here it is. So now it's containerized, and it preserves. So let's say I know I have admin user, right? So which I used originally on host, right? So if I go,
so I would add So my assumption here is, well, actually, I don't want to assume. Where are we storing these values, or do we store them in SSM or Secrets Manager?
No, because this is forum, so we have this RDS data.
It's
MySQL, yeah. So we have, but you see, I have not changed anything. So it pick up all connection strings, everything, put this for me, and now I just log in as administrator. So I'm everything is preserved.
So I would still, though, just urge some caution with secrets, because I don't. It feels to me like we're baking that into the Docker image.
No.
I'm wondering if we're baking it into the ECS task definition or something like that.
No. We have it as so it depends on user. So in my case, I'm seasoned guy. So I put in connection string I have database name and I have ACM secret. I ran of ACM secret. So this is so if we go to this file, web configuration, and check.
But so I do think that's something just, to keep an eye out for, right? When you do transfer, it's great that does come with, but, do look at using like Secrets Manager or SSM.
And maybe a strategy would be to just use this as the starting point, but then when for example, when it does give you the task definition, go through it and make sure that you don't have any of those, embedded secrets. And if you do, edit them before you push it anywhere and swap over to using the SSM integration so that you're storing that secret in SSM and you're retrieving it. You're letting ECS retrieve it for you. So, that's easy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow, that was very cool. I think we're running low on time here, so I think we should probably wrap up. So Petra, that was amazing. Thank you for demoing that. Super cool. Brent, is there anything you want to talk about before we wrap up?
I do want to, yes. Thank you, Petra. Loved having you on the show, and thank you for handling all of our Windows container needs.
In the future.
Yes, exactly. I do want to point out, though, that we have Container Day coming up in about 2 weeks, and that is the day 0 event before KubeCon. So if you're at all interested in KubeCon and you want to know what's happening specifically at AWS, in the EKS world or in the Kubernetes world, join us for Container Day. It's a free event. AWS Container Day, k8s.splashthat.com is where you can register. So sign up, totally free. Join us. We'll be live streaming it. And then you can continue on to KubeCon after that. So I just wanted to make sure that we covered that.
Cool. Yeah, I saw the ticker and earlier in the show, and I thought, shoot, Brent probably wanted to talk about that.
Yeah.
So
all right. So until then, join us tomorrow for Pulumi. And until then, everyone have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Petra.
Thank you for having me.